This is my question to you, because I listened to your Bourbon with Barnes on the Hunter Biden indictment, it being a pretext to get him to plead the fifth during upcoming congressional testimony. We'll get there in a second. For those who don't know, Hunter Biden has now been indicted with 9 additional charges related to tax.
There's tax evasion, fraudulent filing, and failure to file.
Yeah, but what's
failure
it?
To pay.
There's
also
felony.
willful failure to pay and misdemeanor failure, and where that fits in between misdemeanor and felony can vary.
I was losing the word for felony. So there's some felony charges, some misdemeanor charges, and there's a 56-page indictment coming out of the District of California.
Central District, California.
Central District.
They have their own tax division.
That's what I think you're going to have to flesh out to people after I'm done summarizing this, but everybody should know what's in there. They're basically accusing Hunter Biden of having willfully not paid taxes for 4 years, even though he self-declared he would owe certain taxes. Through a series of shell companies, he took in millions and millions of dollars, split it 3 ways among his various business partners, depending on the deal. He had different business partners for his Romanian deals, different business partners for his Chinese deals, different business partners for his Ukraine Burisma deals. He took in the money. He knew that he had to pay taxes. He didn't. The indictment alleges that instead of paying his taxes, he spent it on hookers, adult entertainment, various women, withdrew $1.6 million from ATMs over the course of 4 years. I listened to Marco Polo, Garrett Ziegler on Robert Gouveia explaining that the mechanism, how does someone withdraw $1.6 million over the course of 4 years? That would take a very long time to do. Monthly withdrawals is one way. But according to Marco Polo, what Hunter would do is he would basically give hookers and drug dealers a PIN code that would allow them to withdraw cash from the bank account to pay for the drugs and the sex. And so that's how you can
and
quickly...
he had above average limits. Most people, that's what I was noticing throwing a lot of people off, is they're like, hey, that would take forever because it's like $500 a day or $5,000 a day. Hunter had different ATM limits than the rest of us.
And he was able to provide a PIN code access to third parties to withdraw the cash for him. And so they had whatever, $600,000, I think, on women. I might be getting the numbers mixed up. That's what they were able to trace. The 1.8 million would get subdivided down into the various categories. If they knew where the cash went, they'll never know where it went. Although I guess they could figure out who took out the money. So hookers, drug dealers could be provided a PIN code and withdraw cash from the ATM without Hunter being present. So that's how you get to 1.6 million. I mean, it's some people
is illegal source income. All this is now they don't talk about the biggest illegal source income, but all of this in different ways is illegal source income either coming in or illegal source income going out.
And apparently also according to Garrett Ziegler, and I'm not doing this to throw him under the bus, it's not my information, apparently business partner 3, not identified in the indictment, is Joe Biden's brother. What's his name? It's James or Jim?
I think it's James, isn't it?
It's apparently Joe Biden's brother, business partner number 3 in the indictment, who, the one who reimbursed his brother $240,000 loan repayment. So it's a bloody, godforsaken criminal enterprise going on there. The indictment comes out of the Central District of California. This is a federal court, Robert, because it's tax, right? So
yes.
So how does the federal court do this? Effectively usurping or bypassing the fact that the DOJ wasn't doing it. That's what I don't understand.
Oh, I mean, it is the Justice Department. So it's the Justice Department Special Counsel David Weiss assigned to it, working with the tax division of the Central District of California.
Okay, now knowing that it is controlled by the same people, David Weiss was the one trying to get him in on the sweetheart deal and give him immunity, non-prosecution, waiting too long to go after certain charges that then lapsed because of statute of limitations. Knowing that it's those players, why do it?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think that's where the issue that is present is the why and the timing. So part of this is because of all the IRS whistleblowers. That this put the IRS in a bad position because the whistleblowers exposed the degree to which they gave preferential treatment to Hunter Biden. And I think that definitely put people over at the tax division in a position where they really wanted to be able to clear their own reputation by bringing the case. Then you have Weiss trying to protect his reputation, and I still think it's a controlled case. And I'm not the only one. Professor Jonathan Turley has said the same thing. He has said that what's extraordinary is that what stands out about the entire case is that it's really an illegal source income case. It's an income, it's about him receiving money for things that look like thinly disguised bribery, to bribe his father. And that this was a Biden family corrupt operation to monetize Uncle Joe at Uncle Joe's own insistence and urging. This wasn't something Hunter came up with on his own. This was something that Uncle Joe demanded. because the big guy needs his cut in between beating his dogs, is that, and I guess walking around naked, according to what Alex Jones told us.
That I can forgive Joe Biden for. The beating of the alleged beating of the dogs is
different animal. Literally, is that's really what the case is truly about, and it tries to hide that throughout the entire indictment. It tries to disguise why did he have to engage in mass-scale tax evasion? Because it's an illegal source income that he would have to be reporting. That's why. Why is he not filing returns during these key years? To protect his father's political career and to get president so they can really cash in. That's what the whole backstory is. Like, why didn't he just file the return? Why didn't he just pay the tax? Because if he did so fully and honestly and forthcomingly, it would disclose their involvement in the Biden crime family of monetizing access to Joe Biden, both while he was vice president and in anticipation of him becoming president, and based on classified documents that he took that he didn't have the authority to have, that he could sell access to, the information to, while he was at office. And this is a guy that leaves the vice presidency, and all of a sudden he's got Delaware beach houses and 11 million or whatever it was, crazy amounts of income suddenly pouring in. It's like, based on what? And then, of course, the sophistication of involving art. What's different is a lot of money laundering in art. It's just you usually don't pretend to be the artist yourself, like Hunter Biden. You find some other artist, you pretend this artwork is really valuable, and you launder money that way. There's movies made about it. It's one of the favorite methods of money laundering in the world. Also, by the way, if you want to have secure assets, not a bad thing to do either under certain circumstances. Watches and jewels are a little bit easier to transport, but art can be an easy way to... Art's hard to seize, right? Unless they actually have physical access to it, the government. Hard to get, if you store it, secure it the right way, it can be worth a lot of money. The timing interests me because it's on the eve of Hunter having to testify. Now, obviously, it'll be even easier for him to just take the fifth and not testify at all before Congress because he's got this tax indictment. And they needed Hunter to flip in order to be able to really successfully impeach Joe Biden in the court of public opinion. They can impeach him in the House, but to impeach him in the court of public opinion, which is their ultimate objective because they know they're not going to get a conviction out of the Senate, they needed someone like Hunter Biden to flip. Hunter Biden's not going to flip when he's facing, from his own father's Justice Department, 5 to 10 years. By the way, that's the average sentencing risk. Sentencing risk here, he would get at least 5 years typically. Up to 10 without much difficulty. And if they throw in a legal source income, which is what this really is. And the other thing that's covered up here is how many laws is he violating? He basically violated a law every state he went. So there's state law. Interesting, California hasn't indicted him yet because California could have also indicted on the same basis. The IRS, the Justice Department did because of ties to California income sources and expenditures. But everybody could have been indicting for his involvement in human trafficking, his involvement in, there's evidence that he knew that's what it was on his laptop. The evidence, the scale of the evidence. And now we look back, that laptop was an extraordinary revelation, and the suppression of it by the mainstream media at the insistence of the CIA, by people still being paid by the CIA, which is now being publicly disclosed, is really the most remarkable election interference that took place in 2020.
Well, in the history of America, possibly, Robert. I'm pulling out Marco Polo's report on the laptop. He sent me a box to give out to select people when I go to events. Sorry, the Marco Polo was suggesting that it looks like the California tax authorities were basically following his itemized breakdown of the finances of what Hunter spent his money on and, incorporated it into the indictment. The question that I had was this. It didn't look like they were playing nice with Hunter because they didn't have to make certain allegations that they did make unless maybe I don't know. When you're alleging tax fraud or tax evasion, do you have to allege what they spent the money on and not taxes?
For willful failure to pay, you do. Because there's different. Failure to pay is real risky, in my view, constitutionally. So we don't have debtors' prisons in America. And we don't have protesters' prisons in America. Now, right now, we have people who are in prison for both, but we're not supposed to constitutionally. And tax runs right up against that. And that's why there's a robust willfulness defense, robust good faith defense. But for example, if all you do is you owe a tax and didn't pay, that cannot be a crime. Otherwise, we have debtors' prisons again, right? Hey, you owe a debt, the debt's to the government, you didn't pay, you go to prison. That's why it requires a unique kind of criminal willfulness. You've got to show they had the means to pay, deliberately chose not to pay, and used evasive methods and mechanisms to prevent you, the government, from collecting the tax. That's why dealing in cash so extensively, that's why what he was spending it on can have material relevance.
See,
I think the other reason here is this is the Biden Justice Department. Here's my alternative theory, like a hush-hush version. I think the Biden Justice Department actually fears Hunter Biden testifying against his father. I think they are effectively blackmailing the president's son into keeping his mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut, and you don't go to prison, federal prison, for 5 to 10 years. They thought they had that deal done previously, and then it got blown up by public exposure. And now I think they worry. I think Joe is very worried. I mean, is it really a coincidence his daughter's leaving behind her, 12 steps diary about the perverted behavior of her father?
I think both of them.
And Hunter left a laptop with this incriminating information behind. I mean, these are people that are eager to testify about how nuts their father is and how he's destroyed their lives. Mm-hmm. And I think what Joe Biden is doing is using the Justice Department to make sure they keep their mouths shut.
That's a very, very interesting theory. My operating theory is that both children hate the father for the abuse that they inflicted or neglect, and have been actively trying to sabotage him by living the most reckless lives imaginable. And they have not been able to successfully sabotage him because the agency's intelligence, criminal justice, everything is working to protect Joe Biden. Depict this with a bit of a humorous
angle.
Why
else would you indict the kid? You indict the kid to keep his mouth shut, is my view. You don't indict the kid if you think indicting him will cause him to rat out the father. You indict the kid to keep him from ratting out the father.
Fascinating. Snowball's chance in hell. I mean, what are Hunter's outs given this indictment at this point?
Well, I think he will argue that the prior deal is still enforceable.
Yeah.
So that will be one motion to dismiss. Otherwise, my guess would be to delay the proceedings till after the election, with the expectation that if he keeps his mouth shut, Daddy will pardon him.
Mother Cabri, Robert, you are a smart man. Okay. Fantastic.
Like I said, Joe's dumb, but when it comes to being a criminal, he's not that dumb. He's actually a decently smart criminal. Just low-level criminal. Not mastermind, not Lex Luthor, but decent street-level criminal.
Well, that's a damn good theory. All right, we'll see how it pans out.